Who are some of the guys that you think are some of the top receivers, and what teams do they fit at the next level?
Okay, so I'm looking at that 6th overall pick with the Las Vegas Raiders, and lately everybody's been mocking Ashton Jeanty to them. I get it, absolutely. If they do it, I'm not calling it a wrong pick. Jeanty's a freak. The Raiders were last in the league in rushing grade. I'm going to talk about Tetairoa McMillan, though, because I think the choice really is likely to be between these two guys, and I think with Geno Smith as their quarterback now, and as well as he throws the ball vertically down the field, all right? He's been one of the best passers over the last 3 years, throwing at 10-plus yard targets, right? And second in big-time throws in that stretch behind Josh Allen. That's what Geno wants to do. He wants to work vertically, and for as much as I love Jacoby Myers and I love Brock Bowers, they're going to work underneath more often. If you need a vertical receiver, if you want a vertical receiver in Las Vegas right now, Tetairoa McMillan's your guy. I think he can add that exact element. Obviously didn't run. I don't think he's not quite as fast as a DK Metcalf, but that same dynamic where you have that big, dynamic, down-the-field X receiver for Geno Smith to throw to, you can still get running back depth later in this draft, no question. They need running backs. They can find that. Maybe Chip Kelly dips into the Ohio State guys with Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson or both of them somehow. We'll see. But I think McMillan and Geno Smith would be a perfect pairing in Vegas. Again, if they take Ashton Jeanty, I'm not going to complain. I think Ashton Jeanty's also one of the best players in this draft, and they desperately need running back help, but I think McMillan would be the perfect guy to fill out that receiving core in Vegas.
I'm a big fan of that. You give Geno Smith another DK Metcalf-ish receiver, like another big receiver like he had in DK Metcalf and Ted McMillan. I'm saying the comparison for Ted McMillan is DK Metcalf, but you give him a bigger target to throw to in Ted McMillan. I think it's a great call out there. I'm going to go with the number 2 overall pick in the draft, the Cleveland Browns. I think they should take Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter is the best non-quarterback in this year's draft. I don't think Cleveland is in the space right now to take a rookie quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, because it feels like Cam Ward is almost a lock to go number 1 overall to Tennessee. So I don't think they'll go with Shedeur Sanders, but I do think they should go with his teammate in Travis Hunter. And honestly, it goes down to Cleveland could improve at both wide receiver and at corner. You look at the Browns receiving core right now. You got Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore, and Michael Woods. Jerry Jeudy was the only guy who graded in the top 80 of PFF graded receiver this past year. So Judy's a good player. I think he's more of like a really good number 2 receiver in the NFL. I don't know if I want him as a true number 1. Other than that, you really got to improve that receiving core. You look at the cornerback room for Cleveland. You got Denzel Ward, you got Greg Newsome, and Martin Emerson. Denzel Ward was the 41st highest graded corner this last year. They didn't have another corner in the top 100 of PFF grading. So you're talking about a team that could use a lot of help at wide receiver and a lot of help at corner, and you have the most unique prospect in NFL history in Travis Hunter, who could help you out at both spots. Again, I don't know if he'll be a full-time player at one or the other, and the Browns already said that they consider Travis Hunter more of a wide receiver than a corner, but you'd be foolish not to try him at both spots in the NFL as well. So I think Travis Hunter, man, going to Cleveland would help them out at 2 very valuable spots, and I would take him with the number 2 overall pick in the draft.
I get it. I absolutely get it. I know lately it's been leaning towards Abdul Carter, or maybe they're thinking about Shedeur Sanders, but again, it's hard to pass on an athlete like that, especially when outside of quarterback, you could argue the Browns' 2 biggest needs are at receiver and at corner, because their secondary, they were top 3 in both run defense grade and pass rush grade, and I believe they were 28th in coverage grade. Would help you there. Receiving, all you really have is Jerry Jeudy out there at wide receiver right now, and you're talking about a guy as talented as Hunter, who Andrew Berry said at the Combine, I view this guy as a receiver. Maybe that plays into it a little bit. We'll see.
Absolutely. So Travis Hunter to the Browns, that's what I would do. I'd be hard-pressed to take any non-quarterback over Travis Hunter. I just think he could be, again, one of the most valuable players in the NFL, quarterbacks included, with how good he is on both sides of the ball. What's another team fit that you really like at the receiver class?
All right, this is something I've been preaching lately, and I'm going to stay on it. The Pittsburgh Steelers, look, trade for DK Metcalf. No question, when you add DK Metcalf to your team, it makes your team better. There is conversation, though, about the skill set being a bit redundant to George Pickens. You've got vertical guys. There's no question they're going to want to throw the football down the field. Will it be Aaron Rodgers? Will it not? Will it be Jackson Dart? I don't know who the hell their quarterback is, but either way, they have 2 really good vertical receivers. I know that 21st overall pick, they've been talking about, maybe a D tackle. We start the Cam Hayward succession plan. Maybe it's Jackson Dart. We figured out. I would still look at a receiver to diversify this thing. And to me, I think Emeka Egbuka would fit in perfectly. When you talk about somebody, you mentioned it, separating underneath, getting in on the run blocking, doing whatever an offense needs in that underneath game, I think he could if he got in the Steelers offense, I think he'd get a boatload of targets. Because right now, the question I get asked most often when I say this is, well, what about Roman Wilson? I go, Roman Wilson and Emeka Egbuka are two completely different players. Wilson, even though he might play in the slot, is a vertical guy, right? Even Calvin Austin is somebody who has speed. He wants to get downfield. They don't have a player like Emeka Egbuka on their team. I think even though they traded for Metcalf, whoever the quarterback may be, if it's Aaron Rodgers, if it's a rookie, I don't know, whoever it's going to be, I think they would greatly benefit from having somebody who can diversify this offense. Because right now I look at it as just constantly, I know they have Pat Freiermuth too, but just constantly everything downfield. And that's the problem last year is when it was working, when the go balls, and you can just chuck up go balls all day, when it works, it's great. High variance though, right? Take some of the variance out of this. Find an underneath target that knows how to separate and help you in the run game for that matter, because Arthur Smith is still going to want to run the ball. I think if Emeka Egbuka was on the board at 21 for the Steelers, that's the guy that I would take.
Yeah, you mentioned before, because when we did our scouting report for Emeka Egbuka earlier on in the video, we mentioned, okay, he's not much of a downfield weapon. That might be a negative for him. In that offense, that's what
I don't need him to be. I don't need him to get beyond 10 yards. I'm good. He can just take everything underneath. He could be the PPR king for somebody who was asking about Dynasty before.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's where I'm living with Egbuka. He can just pick up first downs while the other two guys wait for their shots downfield.
And before, I would have said the fit of George Pickens and DK Metcalf together with Russell Wilson at quarterback would have been nice, because Russell Wilson's at least one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. Russell Wilson's now a New York Giant, so you don't have that option anymore. And I know Aaron Rodgers might probably still be the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, but he likes throwing the ball underneath too. Emeka Egbuka, like I said before, is a great slot receiver, can get open at a high level, and he brings something different to that Steelers receiving core. When they have two guys who are very, very similar in that receiving core, you at least get a different flavor in Emeka Egbuka. So I love that call as well. Like, again, they're looking for a slot receiver. I don't think a Jalen Noel would fit the Steelers either, right? Because he's more of a downfield weapon like George Pickens and like DK Metcalf is. Emeka Egbuka, I think, is a better fit, or Xavier Restrepo is a better fit as a starting slot receiver.
Even if it was, well, I don't think they have a second round pick now, but even somebody like, if it's not Egbuka, again, I think about alternatives. Okay, a Jack Besh, right? If they were to find a way to get him, somebody who just diversifies it just a little bit. Right? If there's days where they're not running the football well behind their offensive line, and there's days they're not chucking up the go balls, it's the exact reason not only did they lose their last 5 games, but they scored 17 or fewer points in all 5 of those games. You just can't have that much high variance element to your offense.
Absolutely. All right, next guy I'm going to go to is Luther Burden III, and one fit I'd still like him to see at is the Denver Broncos, because Sean Payton at his press conference at the NFL Combine mentioned, okay, we're looking for a joker in this offense. We want a guy who could do everything for us. Well, that is Luther Burden III to a T. Now, I know they added a very versatile tight end already in free agency in Evan Ingram, but I still think Luther Burden III could provide a different element to that wide receiver room that they're kind of don't really have right now with Cortland Sutton and Devon Vele and Marvin Mims and of course Troy Franklin still there as well. Luther Burden III could be the guy that you just get the ball in his hands one way or the other, whether it be on the screen, whether it be down the field, whether it be even on handoffs as well. Like I said, his comp is Deebo Samuel, and it sounds like Sean Payton is looking for Deebo Samuel type players in his offense. So Luther Burden III, excellent after the catch, can provide a different element to that Broncos receiving core. I still think he should very much be in play at number 20 overall. Now, it feels like Luther Burden III is kind of falling off boards a little bit. He's right now a projected second-round pick for a lot of people, Dalton. I don't know why he should fall to the second round. I would still take this guy in the first round, and I think at 20 overall to the Denver Broncos, he still would fit what sounds like a pretty big need for Sean Payton, still looking for the joker in his offense.
I think the compliment to Bo Nix as a quarterback who does play things a little bit more conservative. Now, Bo Nix had a fantastic rookie year, doesn't turn the ball over much, doesn't beat himself, but he is conservative. He wants to throw the ball underneath. Burden's after the catch ability would fit that perfectly, and I think it'd be a great compliment to Cortland Sutton on the other side. When you talk about Sutton being the vertical threat, you add that's what Sean Payton's looking for. He's trying to make his offense have more layers so they can attack more parts of the field. And when he talks about those jokers, in English, that's matchup problems. And Luther Burden anywhere on the field can cause a matchup problem. You mentioned it. Even just the screen game. I mean, that can help you a lot, right? When you're picking up those yards after the catch, or extension of the running game, as the phrase is used so often. I think Burden could really expand what Sean Payton wants to do on offense. I'm with you with that in Denver.
And I like the compliment of him to Cortland Sutton as well.
Sure.
I think it would be a really good compliment. So I still think Luther Burden III, even though it seems like his stock is falling a little bit, I still think he should be in play for the Broncos at number 20 overall. Who is the last team fit that you really really like in this draft.
Okay, I'm looking at Jaden Higgins, and I'm looking at big-bodied X that could be had in the second round, possibly early in the second round. And I look at another number of his. This past year, a perfect 99.9 receiving grade on intermediate targets between 10 and 19 yards, which makes sense, right? I mean, you think about, again, in the same mold as, say, a T. Higgins, right, where you're working those deep in cuts and those 12-yard curls, and you're moving the chains and things like that. And I didn't realize, I was just going through and looking at this, I'm like, where would this fit, right? And I didn't realize the team that was dead last in intermediate receiving grade last year was the New York Jets. Now, we've talked about at number 7. They're kind of a wild card. They're a little bit weird at number 7. Could they take a defensive player? Would it be a Mason Graham if he was there? Maybe. Tyler Warren's been mentioned, Armand Membu, Teteroa McMillan. But let's say they don't go receiver. Right now, the New York Jets receivers are Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Xavier Gibson, Malachi Corley, and whatever else might be behind. It's really just Garrett Wilson as their only legitimate pass catcher. They have to come out of this draft with pass catchers because, honestly, they're, ironically, because they're both Iowa State guys, they're trying to get rid of Alan Lazard.
Yeah.
And when I think about this now, okay, so let's make a case if you want a defensive player or you want Armand Membu to fill out the 5th spot on that offensive line. They still need pass catchers. So I look early in the second round with the Jets and I go, you know what? Jaden Higgins as the X, as the complement to Garrett Wilson on the other side. With everything Garrett Wilson can do, we know everything Garrett Wilson can do, even with the quarterbacks he's had to play with. Jaden Higgins might actually be the complement they're looking for early in the second round. Intermediate receiver, 6'4". The other guy they have like that is Lazard, and they're trying to get rid of him, and he drops the ball too much. Higgins has really good hands, and that's really actually been a problem for the Jets the last couple of years too, is drops. You don't have to worry about that with Higgins. So that's somebody I might look at if the Jets don't go, because I think if Teteroa McMillan's on the board, they would think about that too. Obviously, that would work, but I already had McMillan going elsewhere, one spot ahead of them. Higgins, again, as an alternative to McMillan, and for a Jet team that does not have a viable X receiver, or really any viable pass catcher beyond Garrett Wilson right now, I think that's a team I would look for early in the second. I forget the exact pick, 30, somewhere in the late 30s, maybe 40, somewhere around there. I think that would be a perfect spot for Higgins to go to.
I would love that fit for him next to Garrett Wilson. Then, obviously, as I mentioned before, when they lost Devontae Adams and let him go, you have Garrett Wilson and not much else in that receiving core right now. And I think Jaden Higgins would provide a really, really good weapon for them. So I don't even hate if they take Tyler Warren at 7 and then Jaden Higgins in the second round. It's just add as many pass catchers as possible for that room.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they had the third worst grade for their tight ends last year in the league, and now Tyler Conklin's on the Chargers, and he was the starter. And they lost Devontae Adams, and they were dead last in intermediate receiving grade, mainly because their offense last year was simple as it gets. It was either slants or back shoulders, so there was really no in between. We'll see what Aaron Glenn and Tanner Engstrand want in this offense, but I think Higgins would solve a lot of problems for him.
Absolutely. The last guy I'm going to go with here is another projected first-round pick in this year's draft. That is Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas. Now, I'm going to go with a team that is not taking a first-round receiver since 2002.
You really want them to do it. I feel like every time we get on a show, you really want the Packers to take a wide receiver.
It has been 23 years since the Packers took a first-round wide receiver, even tight end there. So I would say Matthew Golden this year, go to the Green Bay Packers at number 23 overall. I think this guy, now I'm a little more pessimistic than some people on whether or not he could be a number 1 receiver in the NFL. But the reason why I like him to the Packers specifically is I think what they're lacking right now, with Christian Watson especially coming off the injury, they need a true downfield threat. And Matthew Golden maybe wasn't allowed to be as much of it because of the quarterback problems that Texas had this past year. But like we said before, he ran a 4.29 in the 40-yard dash. We know he's got the speed to get downfield on you. So I think the Packers receiving core is really redundant in a lot of ways with Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs and Datavia Wicks and guys like that. You had a guy like Matthew Golden who at least got the speed to take the top off of defenses. They need that, right? Because Jordan Love's a guy who loves to take deep shots. Matt LaFleur's a guy who loves to call deep shots a lot as well. I think Matthew Golden, he wasn't much of a deep receiver at Texas, but I do think he's got the speed to be more than that in the NFL. I think that fit in the first round of the draft would make a lot of sense to be for the Green Bay Packers, more so than an Emeka Egbuka, for example, who would, again, be very similar to a lot of things the Packers already have in their receiving core. I think Matthew Golden would provide a different element to that receiving core.
Whole lot of possession receivers over there. I'm trying to pull up the team grades on deep receiving grades for everybody here. The Green Bay Packers, where are they? I'm trying to find them. Fine print. 10th in deep receiving grade, which is interesting to me. But I'm with you. I think they could use that speed element. I think it's something. Now, again, there are teams sitting back on him also last year because they know Jordan Love wants to throw those deep balls. And Christian Watson, look, as talented as he is, it's the injuries, right? I mean, there's just constantly a hamstring, an ankle, or something, this or that lower body. And if they don't have Watson out there, things do start to get stagnant, right? And they have to adjust with the other guys in the shorter game. But I think Golden, to be able to really take the top off the defense, and then to have Jordan Love get back to the patient approach that worked for him in the second half of 2023, it's going to be a big deal here. I mean, obviously they spent big money on the offensive line with Aaron Banks. They're trying to protect him. But, the combination of Jordan Love understanding when to take those deep shots. And then you mentioned it, having guys you can take those deep shots with, especially if Christian Watson's going to continue to not be healthy through a whole season. It is a good option. I doubt they're going to do it because we've had 20-plus years of them not doing it. But I do appreciate you calling your shot on that one because it is an option. Look, they have needs at receiver, at edge, and at corner. So 3 spots you really don't want to have needs at, and they've made the playoffs the last 2 years. It's kind of an interesting dynamic, but it certainly would be an option.
And Christian Watson would be that deep threat for them. Like I said, he's been battling injuries his entire career. And even when he's on the field, Dalton, he's been kind of an inconsistent player as well. And his ball tracking ability has been kind of the big problem with him back at North Dakota State and even in the NFL too. So I think that's another reason why they could look to a guy like Matthew Golden to be more of a reliable deep threat than Christian Watson was.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you become one today.